little short-staffed tonight. We're going to have just Joey and Bry.
And I am not fit to be seen by human eyes.
With just two of you, why don't you decide what order you want to say hi in?
Hi, I'm Joey. I am playing Connor Leon, the mechanic slash smuggler extraordinaire.
And I am Bry playing Birdie, who is probably less magical than she thinks she is.
The real magic is in your heart.
Yeah, friendship is magic, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Friendship got you into this mess, and friendship will get you back out of it.
Right.
So I believe we left off with you going to bed on, well, with you calling it a night on Thursday evening, so we can pick up on Friday morning. You might, if you choose to eat breakfast out on the veranda, you might see Colonel Endicott being escorted by the police back over to the Nairobi Star offices.
Uh-oh. What do you suppose is happening over there?
Say you?
I said, what do you suppose is happening over there?
Something fun, at least.
Yeah, it was just last night that he burst into the offices and blasted a hole in the ceiling and then went off with Connor to get drunk. So there's a good chance that the police are following up on that with him, and he might end up paying a fine, paying for to fix the hole, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was having money troubles before. He blew a hole through the floor and ceiling of the second floor.
Well,
he looks
I
around.
suppose...
Yeah, good.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
He was gonna make a joke about, well, there's plenty of lumber lying around.
Well, I suppose if anything interesting starts happening, we'll hear it from here.
It's best not to mess around with the cops.
You're telling me that?
I'm just reminding myself that this charming face does not mesh well with authority.
Well, too bad we're probably gonna have to speak with them at some point then.
It's gonna be like pulling teeth.
Oh, just leave the charming and the talking to me, and you'll be fine.
Also, like always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Connor's just enjoying his breakfast or lunch while we're talking.
By the time you finish your meal, you will see the Colonel leaves looking chagrined. So, whether this will improve his behavior is a question to be answered at a later date.
Survey says no.
That is absolutely going to make our job a lot harder later.
You can decide what leads you want to pursue today.
I'll need a few minutes to look over my journal.
We have the sorry, still waking up. We have the seance and the hunting expedition to look into. We have We can always just ask around town and see what weird stuff's coming up.
Let's see. Well, I don't want to do the hunting expedition until after the seance.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to take a few days, and I don't want to miss the chance to speak with our poor deceased friend, if that is possible. We could always go check at the government house. We've got a few contacts there we can go speak with. See if we can find Nelson?
Bertrand Nels Nelson, who is a British mercenary that Hammer met in a bar and told him that he saw Jack Brady alive after the date of the massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can start dragging. It might be best to start that in the afternoon, although if he's really always in the bars, he'll probably be about the only person in the bar in the mornings, so...
Likely.
There's also a Neville German at the government house.
Mm-hmm. We've got Roger Corden, Neville German.
There's a Lieutenant Selkirk of the King's African Rifles, who was in charge of the group that actually found the massacre site.
Mm-hmm. What was our interest with Sam Mariga?
Let's see what it says here. I believe Hammer just talked to him.
Okay.
Let's see what he actually said. Let's see. Let's start at the top of the list. So Roger Corridon, Hammer met with Corridon and was told that he was given the official version of the story of the Carlisle massacre, which Hammer absolutely did not believe. He went to the massacre site himself, noticed that the earth there is completely barren, that all of the tribes of the region avoid the place. He met with a Johnstone Kenyatta, a government official, not a British government official, but a representative of one of the local tribes, who said that the Carlisle massacre murders may have been performed by the cult of the Bloody Tongue. This was actually the first person who told Hammer about this cult.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Sam Mariga's name is listed under there as one of the people he talked to about the cult, but nothing specific mentioned to him. It's Sam Mariga Railway Station. He also spoke to Neville German, Dr. Starrett, Lieutenant Selkirk, and Colonel Endicott.
Okay. I'm gonna say let's head to the government house first.
Alright.
Let's save some of the cult talk for when James is feeling less under the weather.
Ah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll finish up our late brunch and head on to the government house.
All right. Yeah, there's obviously some red tape and some secretaries to get through and everything, but Bertie, you've proven very adept at this in the past. And it's clear that, like, you know from the notes that Hammer spoke to these people as well, so mentioning his name can get you through.
Mm-hmm. Following up on Mr. Hammer's notes, which were a little lacking in some areas.
That will surprise no one. This is... That's not a slight on the man. It's, the cult is not particularly well known. Maybe people have heard of it, but that's about it. So,
Okay.
Mr. German is a barrister at the government house, and Roger Corridon is Colonial Undersecretary for Internal Affairs. Which one do you want to speak to first?
Let's go with Corden first,
Okay.
because he's top of the list.
That's a good enough reason. So, he is... He is mid-40s. Not incredibly uptight, but, you know, he looks like a government official. He's a little nebbish.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll welcome you into his office and say, how can I help you today? What do you... I understand that you're new visitors to the town?
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, we're not just tourists. We are following up on, I believe you are aware of a Mr. Jonathan Hammer?
Yes, he spoke to me a few months ago.
Yes. Unfortunately, his notes were a bit lacking, so we'd like to follow up on some of his questions, if that's all right with you.
Well, it's perfectly all right. I can tell you, his notes may have been incomplete because he wanted something from me that I could not provide. I'm afraid I found him to be a rather romantic and excitable fellow, and my answers were disappointing.
I see.
That sounds a lot like him.
Yes, he was absolutely convinced that there was some mysterious element to the murders that still hadn't been uncovered, but I assure you, it was undoubtedly the Nandis that murdered and mutilated the whites as part of some sort of ghastly ceremony.
I see. So you find that the rumors that the members of the expedition have been seen alive since are completely baseless?
Well, especially given that you were the first person to tell me of such rumors, yes, I would say that's baseless. What are you basing it on?
Well, we have been from New York to England to Egypt, and in speaking with some of the locals, we have heard of some of the expedition members coming back through afterwards. As a matter of fact, in Hammer's notes, he says here that there's a local mercenary who says he's seen Mr. Jack Brady alive since.
Well, that is very strange. A local mercenary, you say?
Yes. Again, this may in fact be very baseless. We intend to
I assure
track
you that
him
it
down
is.
and find him, but
Who is this man?
Mr. Nelson, I believe Hammer's notes said.
Is that Bertram Nelson?
Yes, and I am aware of his predilection towards the drink.
Yes, of course. I'm not at all surprised that he would tell Mr. Hammer what he was hoping to hear. I assume that Mr. Hammer plied him with drink. You will find that he will answer any question you have in the affirmative and give you any details that you wish to hear, as long as he keeps supplying him with drink.
Fair enough. Would you happen to know, just off the top of your head, did the tribesman happen to give a confession, or what was the evidence that ultimately led you to identifying them as the culprits?
Well, yes, after some interrogation, the men who were hanged did confess to the crimes. We also... There aren't a whole lot of people in the area where the massacre was committed. You understand, this is not an area where... This is not New York, where you say you came from, where you can walk down the street at any time and find somebody to commit a crime upon. The dangers around here tend to be from animals, and when a person is involved, it's generally not that difficult to find where they came from.
I see. Have you had many issues like this before?
Oh, no. No, of course not. This was... I mean, this made papers all around the world, specifically because of the brutality. This is unusual in any situation.
And you said it was for some sort of ritual.
Yes, it was some sort of ghastly ceremony. I'm afraid I don't quite understand that part of it myself.
Was this something that the tribesmen themselves spoke to, or...?
You know, I couldn't actually say. I assumed that they did, but I wasn't involved in interrogating them myself, of course.
I don't suppose we might be able to get any access to the police's notes on the matter.
Oh, of course. It's a matter of public record. You're quite welcome to go through our records and get any details that you need. Are you doing follow-up, some sort of book or a newspaper report on the massacre? It has been a few years. I understand that these things go in cycles.
Well, Mr. Hammer does write quite a few books, and does he seem to know that Hammer passed away at all?
He doesn't seem to have kept tabs of the men.
Okay. Well, Mr. Hammer does write books on this sort of thing, and found himself at rather an impasse with being able to create a cohesive story to build off of all this. We're here to, as I said, follow up and get more details so that perhaps we can improve upon his writing a bit.
I would encourage you to be open to the idea that maybe he isn't pulling together a complete story because he's disregarding the facts of the matter. As I say, you're welcome to examine the public records of the investigation. You will find all the details in there. You should find yourselves quite satisfied that justice was carried out, however tragic the incident was.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that his notes were incomplete, just rather incomprehensible at some points.
I can also well believe that.
Sans is gonna be Hammer complaining that I've been bad-mouthing him so much.
You may also find it useful to visit the King's African Rifles. It was one of their platoons that actually found the site of the massacre, and they have their own records of the situation.
Oh, that would be extremely useful. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I believe Hammer mentioned a Lieutenant Selkirk.
That is a terrible matter. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Selkirk has died in an accidental fire in the past couple of months.
I'm just gonna glance over at Connor. A fire?
Yes, he was.
I see.
I believe it was concluded that he had been smoking in his bunks late at night, and neglected to put his cigarette out before falling asleep.
And
He had seen some terrible sights, and I think that his nerves had been rather shaken over the past few years.
I see. And would there happen to be... I expect there was a police investigation of that as well. Would there happen to be any notes on that?
Well, that was more of an inquest taken by the African Rifles, by the King's African Rifles. The police were most likely not involved with that, as far as I know.
Alright, so we'll have to check with them.
Yes, you could speak to a Captain Montgomery at Fort Smith.
Alright.
You can feel free to mention my name.
Alright. Well, if you would permit us...
Yes, of course. He will call out to his secretary and ask her to show you to the record room and wish you well as he gets back to work.
I dislike that man.
You can roll psychology on him if you want to, or you can just conclude that you dislike him, and that's entirely fine.
Oh, she has concluded that she dislikes him, but I will roll psychology to figure out why.
Okay.
Let's see.
And you can both feel free to do it. Connor didn't speak up much, but I figure he's pretty observant.
Yeah, he's just watching for hints of what the person's getting at.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be nada for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where is psychology?
But you can always draw your own conclusions about a person.
Yep.
Yeah, strongly dislike him.
Hey, we only have 21.
Perfectly matched.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's dissolve these.
So when you go through the public records, it pretty much just confirms what you've already read in the newspapers about how the investigation was somewhat stalled until Erica Carlisle herself came to Africa and started kicking around in the hornet's nest to get people to really dig in. Unfortunately, witnesses of the investigation are in somewhat short order now. Most of the people who were in that platoon who actually found the massacre site have been moved on to other stations all over the world. Lieutenant Selkirk, who was in charge of it, has sadly passed away recently.
By a mysterious fire. Who could have guessed?
It's not that mysterious. People smoke and fall asleep. They're going to catch on fire.
Totally has nothing to do with the fire demons.
I don't know how you could draw that conclusion at all.
Alright. So I'm just genuinely going to take down a copy of the police notes for us to reference. There seem to be like Any inconsistencies that I notice?
Not so much, but possibly because it's, there aren't a whole lot of details to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a short trial. Like, this was not a long affair with a whole bunch of witnesses. The tribesmen refused to reveal why they had slaughtered Mr. Carlyle and his companions. The prosecuting attorney implied that it was racial in motivation, and that they had slaughtered the white people in a very savage manner.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that. Okay. Alright, this is gonna be weird, and I know that it's not necessarily pointing in this direction, but do we have the names of the tribesmen?
No, it just refers to them as Nandi tribesmen.
Okay.
If you go to, it's possible that the African Rifles, so that, like, if you're going to go outside of the city and enforce the law, it's generally not going to be the police, or at least the police are going to be taking soldiers with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that you can get more details at the post.
Okay. Totally not thinking about trying to get in touch with any family they may have had to find out from them what might have happened.
And I am making the notes about Roger available to you now.
Yay, thank you.
Do you feel like visiting Mr. German while you're here, or are you going to rush off somewhere else?
I mean, while we're here, it only makes sense.
Okay. So, let's see. I don't think I have a picture of him either. No, okay. So this man is about 30 years old. I don't think that either one of you are going to... There's no reason that either one of you would know much about African exploration. And neither one of you is British, so you won't recognize the name or anything.
Okay.
He looks a little bit odd, though. He's wearing a very nice suit, like, not rich, but fashionable and well cut to his form. But it seems to emphasize some curious physical features. He has very broad shoulders. His hands are large. He doesn't stand up straight. He's kind of bent forward a little bit at all times.
Okay.
Um,
Henchman-esque.
You could conclude that, yeah.
Has at least said on it, boss, once.
You got it, boss. Okay.
But he will greet you as well. And if you bring up Mr. Hammer,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he will say, yes, he was here. He spoke to me about, are you also looking into the Carlisle expedition?
We are indeed. Unfortunately, Mr. Hammer's notes are a bit incomprehensible.
Hmm. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He did seem a little disturbed when he was here. Good man all around, I think, but perhaps a little too conventional.
Oh?
Can I ask, what conclusions have you drawn about the massacre? And while you're talking, he actually gets up and goes over and shuts his office door, and then goes back around his desk and sits down.
Well, considering a couple of members of our party have, in fact, I'm going to change my tactics with this guy because already way more open to the idea that they were wrong. Considering a couple members of our crew have, in fact, seen one of the members of the expedition alive
Oh,
since.
well, that is news to me and very strange.
Certainly not behaving anywhere remotely like the same person, but unquestionably the same person.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow you. Are you saying that they were changed by the experience?
The man was originally a very kind and patient person, and turned out to be quite the sadist later.
Oh, that's horrible. I have to say it's not unprecedented in these matters.
I'd say not,
Wow.
but it is
Things-
deeply concerning.
Terrible things change, man.
Have you entertained? I know the official story is of tribesmen carrying out some terrible ritual.
Birdie immediately just snorts and visibly shows how she feels about that.
Well, have you considered that there actually is a larger cult involved?
Well, considering we have encountered multiple cults in our investigation who have all seemed perhaps not working under the same guise, but working to similar goals, I would certainly say yes.
Yes, precisely. I think that there is a network of cults in different places around the world, but which all are related to a certain primal cult here. In fact, one that I believe is at the source of human civilization itself.
Is that so?
I have an ancestor, Sir Wade German, who was an explorer, who found the location of a ruined city in the Congo Basin. And I believe that Sir Aubrey, when he brought the expedition down here, Sir Aubrey Penhew, I believe that he knew about this cult and their stronghold in the ruined city, and that's what he was searching for.
I see.
Have you heard of the
Do you
cult
suppose-
of the White Gorilla?
Does not ring a bell. We have encountered the cult of the Bloody Tongue, the cult of the the cult of the Black Pharaoh in Egypt, and they were also the cult of the Black Pharaoh also seemed to be present in England.
this. That does not surprise me at all, but I will need to find evidence of this, and I've been looking for many years, but I believe that they all stem back to this one original cult.
I advise against investigating, only because merely asking questions has put our lives in fairly grave danger.
Yes, that is the crux of the matter. My life is devoted to this. I moved from England down here specifically to look for information, but I fear that over the years I have lacked the nerve to actually strike out on my own and find the lost city. But I do have the maps.
May we see those maps? Or are you reluctant to share that with us without some compensation?
He actually looks a little wild when you ask to see them, and he goes over to a safe in the corner of his office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does this man seem entirely sane, or does he seem like the level of crazy that Hammer was?
You can make a psychology roll.
I will make another psychology roll.
Yeah, sure.
Won't be great, but ooh, that's low enough. I'm willing to spend that luck.
Ooh, you don't need to.
Oh, well.
So you both get the impression that, first off, he absolutely believes what he's telling you. Like, this is... He's not feeding you any kind of line. He is absolutely convinced that that everything stems from this ruined city in the Congo, that it's all related to the cult of the White Gorilla, that all of human civilization comes from this area. He is not insane, but he is a little frantic. It seems it's
Manic?
a little bit manic, and it seems like he has learned to keep this in check most of the time. But when he's around somebody he feels he can tell these things to, he comes out in a flood.
Valid.
So yeah, he will get out some charts and maps and bring them over and show you where deep in the Congo his ancestor, first Sir Wade German and then later Arthur German, two of his ancestors have traveled to this lost city.
Were there any rumors of your relatives changing after their visits?
Arthur ended up in an asylum. I don't really understand the full story, but I won't lie to you and pretend that the place is without peril.
All right.
When he tells you Arthur ended up in an asylum, he's bending the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You can call him on it, or you can just keep talking.
I'll take a slightly different approach.
Mm-hmm.
Might I ask what your perspective on these cults is? Do you think there is some truth to the things they do, or is it all manufactured?
Well, I think there's certainly truth to what they do. Whether it's good is a completely different question.
Oh,
But-
I did not ask if it was good.
Yes, but I don't think it's wise to do the things that they do, and I think it can be very harmful. But yes, I and the experience of my ancestors certainly, I think that there is truth, there is power in what they do.
Would you happen to be aware of the fires that were on the train that we were coming in on?
Oh, were you on that train?
We were the ones who dispatched the arsonist.
Oh, well, you're quite formidable then, aren't you?
Lucky, I'd say. Everywhere we have been, there has been something trying to come after us. Since Egypt, we have been told that folks who look a little too closely at these cults are set upon by fire demons.
Fire demons.
Fire demons.
Well, that... I don't know anything about that, but I'm sure it's connected.
You don't feel as though that is some sort of exaggeration?
It feels like it would be hypocritical of me to doubt you at your word when you're taking me at mine.
There was not an arsonist on that train. How many mysterious fires have popped up in this area in the last couple of years? How many strange fires?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't asked that question before. It hasn't really occurred to me. I haven't noticed what I thought to be a highly unusual number of fires.
Fair enough.
It's possible that there have been, but it's not where I put my attention, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. I don't suppose there would be a record of the fires in this area.
Well, I'm sure you could ask at the newspaper.
Which we will certainly be doing. We have already made the acquaintance of Miss
Forbes Smile.
Miss Forbes. Yeah. Smythe Forbes.
Whatever it is, yes.
All right.
Now, I can say that if you decide to go through with this investigation, I can be very useful to you. I don't have backwoods experience myself, but I was responsible. I hired all of the bearers and the guides who were involved in the Carlisle expedition. And I can tell you, they hired a lot more than you would think were necessary. And I'm pretty sure that Sir Aubrey expected to bring back a lot of treasures from the city.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not so interested in treasure. I don't know if I can say the same for my compatriots, but I'm not so interested in the treasure.
I think there are treasures of various kinds there. I think that we will find the roots of human civilization and possibly the roots of the human species, along with other lost secrets and, of course, gold.
Might I, forgive me if this is a bit personal, But I expect this is a family store that you've been relating to us, or
Oh, yes,
is all
this-
of this information from?
No, this is several generations of my family have been involved in this situation. Sir Wade German was I forget the exact year off the top of my head, but he discovered the city in the 1700s. And Robert German, his grandson, undertook another couple of expeditions into the interior of Africa. And Arthur German also took an expedition there. This is quite a few members of my family have revolved around this this expedition. I feel drawn to it.
Interesting. Do you suppose there could be anything supernatural about this draw the city has on your family?
I think that is unquestionable.
I see.
There is, as you're talking about this, there's both excitement and some measure of relief in his eyes. Because, again, most people are not happy when he's talking to them about this.
Yeah.
Have you yourself seen things in this area? Have you seen have you seen any potential members of this cult at work? I would be very interested to know how much of this picture you have personally experienced, how much you have inferred, how much you have been researching.
I've spoken to such people as I could. But the cults, as I mentioned, the city is pretty deep inside the territory of the Congo, which, as I'm sure you know, is quite a distance from Kenya.
It is indeed.
And any such expedition is going to involve trekking deep into the jungle.
Well,
So, I've not personally seen evidence of the cult operating in this area, but I don't know that I would expect to either.
fair enough. Also, Joey, your fan is pointed directly at your microphone.
I know. I had to sit up and adjust it so I actually had it hitting my face.
Okay.
Because I still don't have an AC yet.
Ugh.
So.
Okay. Apologies, it was just a little bit loud.
Yeah, sorry. I know.
If you're looking,
Okay.
if you're looking for this, I'm afraid I haven't heard the term bloody tongue before, or this black pharaoh, but I feel quite certain that both of them either are a reference to the cult of the white gorilla or are descended from it. They have to be tied to it. I think all of human civilization is.
Well, given what we learned in Egypt, I can safely say that the figure that the cult of the Black Pharaoh worship is distinctly a Black Pharaoh.
Even so, magical traditions can survive over centuries. And Egypt, great as their civilization was, I think comes at a much later date.
I wouldn't be surprised. Again, we'll have to consult with other members of our party, but I think, given what you believe of this city, that might be our next destination.
Wonderful. Yes. Please keep me in mind. I'll be happy to help make all of the arrangements, and if you are planning to head there, I would very much like to join your party.
I think your expertise would be utterly invaluable. However, I would like to warn you that we have seen you may not have had personal experience with the cult itself, but we have. And there are things that they can do that, well, let me say that it is no surprise to me that your relative ended up in an asylum.
Yes. As much as I fear my family curse, I fear not knowing the truth more. And so whatever I hope not to face the same fate as my ancestors, but if I do, I trust it will have been worth it.
One can only hope. You should, if we are potentially going to be working together in the future, you should also be aware that Mr. Hammer was in fact murdered by the cult of the Bloody Tongue.
Ah, that I am so sorry to hear that.
It's one of the reasons why we're on this lovely journey across the world. Trying to figure out what it was that he found out that was so dangerous.
Well then, I hope that the additional information I've given you today doesn't bring you to any harm.
Oh, quite to the contrary. I hope we haven't involved you deeper than necessary. I will say it would be wise to keep a good bit of sand or water nearby at all times.
Ah, for the fire demons.
For the fire demons.
I will take that under advisement. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Connor, did you have any questions or comments for the man? Oh, you're muted.
Connor's got the only thing he's got is for after the conversation at hand.
Okay.
You can. So I haven't brought this up until now because both of you have 5 in each of the relevant skills. But if you want to, you can roll either history or occult to see if you know anything about these the German expeditions. It might be something you have to wait and talk to James about.
Yeah.
Probably.
Speaking of James, it seems that Terry found earbuds, so might be gearing up.
Okay.
So I will roll history for the laughs.
I'll roll occult for the laughs in honor of Fluffy.
Let's go! Let's
What the hell, dude?
Holy crap!
Let's go!
And I could theoretically, but you passed. You're good.
That is
Good.
15 luck. No.
Holy crap!
You need 30 at least to survive. But
I have over 70.
Oh my god.
So, Connor,
In our
why?
mouse game.
Why
In our
are
mouse
you?
game, yeah.
Why are you? Why do you have a particular interest in British expeditions into the interior of Africa?
Know thy enemy.
Okay.
It's he has a morbid curiosity about how much shit the British have gotten away with in the past.
That is fair.
And also probably you've got a drinking buddy.
Oh yeah, he's got a drinking buddy that probably talked to him about it. Something similar to that. It is just either a morbid curiosity or something he overheard while he was gathering information, and the only way that he can gather information. And remember, Connor never forgets.
Yeah.
Then you will know, and you can relate to Birdie after you leave the office, that Sir Wade met and married a Portuguese lady during his expedition. And then his grandson took 2 expeditions into the interior of Africa where he heard of a city of white apes ruled by a white god. And then ended up being locked in an asylum after he murdered many of his own descendants. As in his own children and grandchildren. And then Robert's own grandson later undertook an expedition of his own, and he only killed himself. So Neville German is definitely pursuing a family obsession, but it's one that is incredibly destructive to his family.
Yeah. I think he's just looking for answers.
So, if we do pursue this lead, I feel that we should assign somebody to keep an eye on him particularly. And preferably have a firearm that they are capable of using.
And his information is now visible.
Yay!
We'll see how well this works with helping you actually keep remember what the clues are, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot.
Oh, it has already helped a lot. Also, just as an aside, why do I feel like this is tied in the 1995 movie Congo? If either of you have ever seen that one.
Of course I saw that. It has Bruce Campbell in it.
I'm trying to, most of the movies that I watched from that year are a blur. They're all the same movie, and it's like a singularity of movie from that time.
It's literally an investigation into the Congo with a gorilla with a fancy ASL robot. And they find a city that is full of white gorillas.
Huh. Interesting. I've never heard of this.
I did not realize it was potentially tied to the Cthulhu mythos.
That is interesting.
That's fun. It's a bad movie.
It reminds me of
It's
the,
a really bad movie. The book is better, but not brilliant.
That reminds me of the one time that I just randomly watched a movie and found out it was related to the SCPs. Yeah. It was, but it didn't have the title SCP. It was just one of the monsters. because, you know, you can't copyright that.
Well, Lovecraft is
Interesting.
out of copyright, so you can make any book and movie
Yeah.
you want that's similar
Anything
to
you
it.
want.
And that's why there's so many Cthulhu dating sims.
Fair.
That is not a full explanation of that phenomenon.
No, the other part of the explanation of that phenomenon is the monster lovers.
Mm.
Let's not get controversial on here.
Hey, I chose my words very carefully right there, right?
Yeah, that pause was heavy. But yes.
Do
Yeah,
we
not
want
a-
to stall for a little bit to see if Terry can join us?
I don't. It doesn't look like Terry's on his way.
Okay.
I mean, it's been more than 15 minutes since he said that, so either he's got
Fair.
a really slow computer, or
He
Yeah.
might have concluded
Okay.
we only played another half an hour, so.
yeah, true. Okay, so yeah, I'll pass that information down to Birdie, and where I got it, it was probably a conversation I had back at England, just talking about general information during one of our big parties while we met people. And it was just
Yeah.
a little tidbit of information that I did not think would be real that I passed down, kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, it is.
Before you started
is a
believing in all
very-
this nonsense.
Yeah, like, this was 100% the. I didn't. I took in the information but didn't really care about it, and now it became prevalent realization. Like,
now you're
that kind of
asking
thing.
yourself whether madness really can be hereditary.
Yeah.
Birdie is just going to casually do that side punch maneuver. Just to side punch your arm. I trust that if you hear anything else along these veins, you'll share in the future.
I mean, I hear a lot of things. You know, a man will say whatever is on his heart the second a drop of liquor touches his lips. I could be drinking straight up poison and still remember the exact conversation I had that day.
That sounds like quite the curse yourself, actually.
True.
All right.
Oh.
So we've spoken with both of them.
I was mistaken.
Whoa.
Hey.
Oh.
Terry!
I rolled a 3.
I saw.
Yay!
Okay. So, quick up to date. We spoke with the 2 people at the government house. Roger Corden. Absolutely no real basis, mechanically speaking, for disliking him, but really dislike him. He is confident that the investigation into the massacre was 100% accurate, no foul play, no possible other things could have happened. We did not drop any of the supernatural crap on him.
Alright.
We also spoke with, we just finished speaking with Neville, who tells us that he's convinced that everything is connected to the cult of the White Gorilla, which is centered on a ruined city in the Congo, which his family has historically been extremely drawn to and has in fact caused madness that resulted in a number of
In
deaths, including a
Self-destructive family.
Oh, extremely.
Yep.
Extremely. However, we did tell him, or I told him, that we might be interested in going there next. potentially. We really want to go to Shanghai after this.
Alright.
Only other thing I think... I did get a full copy of the police report from the recorded massacre, which was basically just exactly what we've read in the papers.
Yes, your friendly reporter does a good job of reporting out all the information she gets.
Yep. I think...
Yeah, I think you've covered
Unless-
the information that you found so far today pretty well.
I
Alright.
think the next thing I was looking at possibly going and doing, since Neville is very much a believer, we told him about the fire demons and advised he keep a bucket of water or sand nearby.
Oh, that's the one other thing. The most of the soldiers who were involved, most of the soldiers in the platoon that actually
yeah.
found the massacre site, have been reassigned and have moved on from Kenya. But the one who was in charge, Lieutenant Selkirk, who Hammer did speak to just a few months ago, has since died in a fire as well.
Mm.
I think that was the one that I was interested in going to next, unless you would like to, unless you had a different lead you'd like to follow.
I'll let you take the lead.
How about you, Joey? Any thoughts?
I'm gonna continue following Birdie's lead because I cannot think of anything better.
Okay.
I'm going for the broad official picture first, and then we'll get into all of the spooky woo-woo. But,
That is fine by me.
alright.
So you're going to Fort Smith then? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, I think we're gonna head out to Fort Smith.
Okay. So you do, I assume you mentioned Mr. Corridon's name,
Yes.
and that will help get you
mentioned
through the secretaries. Let's see, I actually do have an image of
The
Montgomery
guy's
to
name
share.
was Yeah, Montgomery.
Not in handouts.
What? Is that stray making you crazy? Hmm?
There we
I
go.
need to get a couple of live traps.
So when the group
Oh,
of
he
you,
looks like a delight.
Yeah.
well, when the group of you enter his office, James and Connor, he's looking pretty official and not happy to see you. And then when Birdie walks in, he starts smoothing down his mustache, grooming himself a little bit.
Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Connor has like a sly grin. Like, oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Wait.
And standing ramrod straight, he greets you and says, "I understand you had some questions for me."
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Unfortunately, most of our questions were about your predecessor, Lieutenant Selkirk.
I'm afraid you have misunderstood our relationship. I was his commanding officer.
Is that
Mr.
so?
Yes, Mr. Selkirk, or Lieutenant Selkirk, I'm afraid, has left us, as you seem to be aware. He was a good man.
I see. Well, I wouldn't suppose you would be aware of someone by the name of Mr. Jonathan Hammer?
Yes, I'm afraid I did meet the man.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are following up on some of his notes, which were less than complete. And we were hoping to speak with Lieutenant Selkirk to clear up a few things regarding the Carlisle expedition.
Well, as you found, Lieutenant Selkirk has sadly left us. Most of the group has left us, but he yells out into the corridor, and a moment later a young adjutant steps into the room. And Montgomery orders him to go perform a search and look through the records and find out if there's still anybody local who was actually in that platoon at the time.
Okay.
After the man steps away, Montgomery will tell you, yes, I expect that we will have pretty thorough records. Ms. Carlisle showed up here and started kicking up a fuss, which led to multiple search parties being sent out. So, whether there will be anybody who was in the initial group, I can't guarantee, but I expect we have somebody here who saw the place.
All right. Well, that would certainly be a help. Thank you very much. And then regarding your predecessor's unfortunate demise, what information might you have about that for us?
Well, he was really never the same after that situation. He was a good soldier, don't get me wrong, but when he was off duty, he took to staring into the distance a little too often. Something... You've heard of the shell shock from the Great War.
Of course.
It was something similar to that, I think, although, as far as I'm aware, he never saw active combat. And I suspect that he just let the relaxation of his cigarette and his exhaustion take hold.
I see. We wouldn't be allowed to see any records of the investigation into the fire, I believe it was?
I don't think there are a whole lot of records of an investigation. The man fell asleep with a cigarette, woke up dead, as they say.
I see. It's simply that the past few places we've gone, including the train that we came in on, has had a few instances of arsonists being
Yes, I heard
involved.
about that incident, and so you're the ones then. That's quite impressed. We don't have civilians step up like that very often.
We've unfortunately had to take it upon ourselves to step up quite a bit in the past few months.
I hope you won't find any more of that around here. If you run into any further trouble, please let me know.
I most certainly will. Thank you, sir. I think we're just waiting to look for the records.
Yes, you can make small talk. And then eventually, it will turn out that Sergeant Leonard Bumption, who was at the time a boyish message writer, was involved in that initial expedition, that initial investigation. And Montgomery will have him brought to the office where you can question him under his commanding officer's watchful eye.
I see.
Yes.
Gotcha.
He will confirm, Sergeant Bumption will confirm that there were several search parties. His was not the only one. They had to look for several days before finding the ghastly clearing. I'll tell you, there is solid evidence that Carlyle and Sir Aubrey and the other expedition members were present and very clearly dead. He himself saw the cloven head of Hypatia Masters.
That's a terrible sight for you to have seen. I'm very sorry.
I have seen nothing to match it. It was bodies It was not bodies. It was bits of bodies everywhere. A head here, an arm there, just torn to shreds like a newspaper. Something grabbed those poor buggers and chewed the hell out of them. At the vulgarity, the captain, the colonel looks at him and he apologizes. You'd have thought the jackals and buzzards would have eaten him down to the bone by the time we arrived, but the locals said the animals wouldn't go near the place.
You said something had chewed them up. Is that literal or figurative?
I don't rightly know. I don't know what could have torn the bodies apart that way. Whatever it was, they said it was a cult, and I think that must be the case, because I can't think of any other reason that you'd torture people who are already dead.
I see. Well, did you two have any other questions?
No, I got nothing. I'm sorry.
None that are coming up
Okay.
that mind.
Alrighty.
Alright. Then Bumption will be dismissed.
I'll thank him politely for his time.
And Montgomery will ask you whether there's anything else that you need.
I don't believe so. That was fairly accurate to what our associate had in his notes, and I don't think we'll be getting too much more info.
Well, I'm afraid this is all the information any of us are likely to get. The buggers who did this are dead. Frankly, I wouldn't want to know what would inspire men to do deeds such as this. It was a pleasure meeting you, but I do have some work to do, so I'm going to bid you good day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, and I will absolutely offer to shake his hand.
He will kiss your hand. He is an officer and a
Thank you.
gentleman.
He is. Thank you very much for your time, sir. And I guess we'll head out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I had for anybody this session.
Okay.
So if anybody else has any other leads they would like to follow up on, I am willing to cede the speaking role.
What you have remaining, what you still know about, from your reporter contact, she was personally offended that a woman by the name of Ton Carr, who is a local tea peddler, was regularly visiting with Sir Aubrey Penhew. Hammer spoke to a Dr. Horace Starrett at the hospital and mission school in Swahili Town. Mr. Sam Mariga, who you have no more information in his notes than that he met him at the railway station. Johnstone Kenyatta.
Mariga mentioned the cult, yes?
Mariga was in the list of people that Hammer spoke to about the cult, but what information he might have gotten is less clear.
Okay.
Johnstone Kenyatta, a local official who was the first person to tell Hammer the name of this cult. And Bertram Nils Nelson, a mercenary who mentioned Jack Brady.
Okay.
Any of those leaping out as sounding fun to do? We can't call it here if you're not feeling up to any more talking tonight.
I got no idea of anybody else to talk to.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm drawing blank at the moment.
You're
That's all right.
fine. Personally, I'd like to get Kenyatta out of the way, but I think I would like to do that next time because
That's what I
I've
was
done a
thinking as
lot
well.
of questioning.
That's fair.
And it would feel repetitive to ask exactly the same questions this time around.
Okay. Well then. Anything you want to say before we end it tonight? I could just say thank you all for playing. I always have a good time playing with you.
Yeah, I had a
and
great time.
also,
I'm sorry that I've been so
It's all right.
spacey. And
make sure you have either a backup pair of like earbuds or headphones, just in case if your original set just decides to go out.
Which they all eventually will.
Hashtag down with colonialism.
hey.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.